Let me make sure I'm on. I'm on. All right, good evening, everybody, and thank you for bearing with our technical difficulties. It's good to be with you tonight. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here. This is Noelle. She is our community director here. And to remind you all, first, welcome to all of you online people joining us from Facebook or YouTube. We're glad you're part of this community. We are a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And there's always one thing we don't do. Y'all can shout it out on a count of three. 1, 2, 3.
We don't do shame.
We don't do shame. Noelle's going to tell you a couple of things that you need to know about them.
Yeah, but we do welcome back. So if tonight's your first night here, welcome. We are so grateful to have you here with us tonight. Get with a home team member or a free staff member, and we will get you hooked up with a welcome bag. And inside this welcome bag, it has a little bit about what we do here at Free Recovery Community. There's some fresh roasted wagon coffee in this welcome bag, and also just some other free swag. So just know that we are so grateful to have you here tonight. Stick around and grab a welcome bag. December 28th, so it's coming up here in a couple weeks, we will be taking our rest week. And here at Free, we are very intentional to do this twice a year, once in December and once in July. It's always the Saturday after Christmas. Meetings will still be open. The cafe will be open, but there will be no Saturday service on December 28th. So don't come that Saturday. No one will be here. It'll be weird. And we will resume service in the new year. So we've done this for the past 5 years.
Yeah, we've done it from the very beginning to give staff rest, volunteers, and organization rest. Very important to find rest in our lives. We believe in that here. Now, you can come that Saturday, the 28th.
Yeah.
Just kind of like we're doing a Christmas party in the parking lot this Friday. You can have your own Christmas party in the parking lot if you're here.
It would be by yourself.
By yourself.
Yes.
It'll be all kinds of fun.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Okay, thank you, Noelle. Speaking of Christmas party in the parking lot and our Christmas Eve services, which is next Saturday. I hope you come. We would announce them to you, but we have it in a little video form, a little reel form. Here's the video.
This week we're celebrating and we want you to join us for 2 special events. The first is our Christmas party in the parking lot, and Carrie will tell you more about that.
This Friday from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., join us for a festive evening filled with fun and connection. Whether you're bringing friends, your family, or coming on your own, everyone is welcome. The first 150 guests will receive free Christmas goodies and desserts from the Love Pop food truck. At the party, we'll be collecting warm weather items, coats, hats, gloves, anything to help keep those in need warm this winter. The wagon will be in the parking lot, and we're going to need your help to fill it with these items. So let's fill it and be the light for those who need it most.
And then on that following night, Saturday night, December 21st, join us for one of our Christmas Eve candlelight services at either 5 p.m. or 7 p.m. This service is for anyone searching for hope this season, for every addict and alcoholic, every loved one of an addict or alcoholic, everyone who's ever wondered if they really belong when it comes to the God stuff. It's for those who have found freedom and for those who are barely hanging on. There'll be a meaningful message. We'll sing Silent Night and raise our candles, reminding each other that light is once again breaking through the darkness. So come this Saturday night and let's light this place up.
All right, y'all. I hope you plan on joining us this Friday night and Saturday night. It's like a 2-day party. Oh, and one of the things we'll have at the Christmas party in the parking lot, we would encourage you to bundle up. It's December. It's going to be a little chilly, but we will have fire pits, heaters, hot chocolate, cider. Bring your friends, family, kids are welcome at this. It's going to be all kinds of fun. So Friday night and Saturday night, I hope we see you there. Peasley, come on up, buddy. Robert Peasley is in the house. Founder and owner of Route to Recovery Sober Living. Robert is Route to Recovery is one of our sponsors for this Christmas party in the parking lot event, and I just invited him to say a few words about what you do at Route to Recovery. Tell us what's up, dude.
I appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah.
I don't know what we do, actually. What do we do?
You tell me, man. I'll make it up.
You'll make it up. That's what I'm going to do, too. No, I really do appreciate being able to be here. It's a huge honor to be, just a part of this community and everything that free represents. So it's a huge blessing when Ryan reached out and asked if we would partner on for the Christmas party. So what we do at Route to Recovery is we provide an all-pathway approach, helping both men and women find their place in recovery. We are primarily a sober living, but also in addition to the residences, we also offer one-on-one and an individualized peer recovery coaching. And we also have a family program as well. Because if anybody's like me, when I got sober a little over 11 years ago, my family, they had like no support, right? They didn't know where to go, what to do. So we developed a program that helps work with the families in conjunction while we're working with the individuals that are in our homes and in our program. And so it's really just our goal to help people find their place and their recovery. And that's kind of the whole purpose behind Route, right? Is that we all have our own route. But the cool thing is we get to travel our own paths, but we get to travel them in the same direction as each other, helping each other and supporting each other. So huge honor being up here, Ryan.
Yeah,
Definitely
man.
look forward to seeing all of you guys this upcoming Friday, and hope to, see everybody there.
Yeah, dude, I'm so grateful for your work in the world, dude, and thanks for everything you do. Robert Peasley, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. All right, y'all. Monica and Robin, come on up. Can I get that mic, Jerome? Can you give that mic to Robin, please? Y'all do know we are in this third week of Advent, so 4 weeks of Advent total. It's the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas. We begin with hope. That's the first week. The second week, we light the candle of peace. And then the third week, this week, we light the candle of joy. And Robin's going to read an Advent prayer. Monica will light the candles. And Robin, you might have to turn slightly because the prayer will be on the screen.
Oh, okay.
And it's all yours. Let's do some candle lighting.
This evening we light 3 candles, the candles of hope, peace, and tonight the candle of joy. This candle reminds us that we have reason to be joyful, even in the midst of strife. We remember that the angel proclaimed Christ's birth as good news of great joy to all people. We enter into the story of simple joy again this year. We commit ourselves to letting our light shine and spreading joy to the world around us.
Thank you, Robin and Monica, for the Advent prayer and Advent candle lighting. Yes, thank you for being with us tonight. All right, y'all. Well, if it's your first time with us, you should know that we start a Saturday night with celebrations. We start with the good. We lift up the good. Maybe you're starting with, you're celebrating a sobriety anniversary or a birthday or whatever the new thing in your life or your recovery is. We celebrate it all here. It's a profound thing that we get to do together each week, celebrate, and God joins with us in these celebrations. So we take 3 minutes for this. You could just raise up your hand. Who's going to have the mic? Adam and Jerome. Jerome will be on this side. Adam on this side. Hey, if you're online, drop your celebrations in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments, and we'll join with you there. Let's take 3 minutes.
Thanks. I'm Joe.
Hi,
and
I'm Carrie. Oh, sorry.
Carrie first, then Joe.
Okay. I'm here with my friend Gina. She's here for the first time.
Welcome, Gina. We're glad you're here.
I'm Joe, and I recently celebrated 5 years of continuous sobriety.
5 years. Way to go, Joe. Congratulations.
I'm Mac, and after a relapse in sober living, I just passed 30 days again.
All right, Mac, man. Way to go, buddy. Glad you're here.
My name's Mark. I just got 11 months sobriety on Tuesday.
Way to go,
Last
Mark.
Tuesday.
Happy 11 months.
My name's Drew, and I just got work going again.
All right, Drew. Congratulations. Got some more. Glad you're here, man.
I'm Matthew, and on the 10th of December, I celebrated 6 months clean and sober.
Way to go, Matthew. 6 months.
Hi, everyone. My name's Robin, and I just celebrated 1 year sober yesterday.
All right, Robin. I knew there was a reason we had you read the Advent prayer. Congratulations.
I'm Stephanie, and I have a second interview for a job on Monday.
All right, Stephanie, we'll celebrate that.
I'm Katie. This is my first time here, and after a short relapse, I am 3 weeks sober and back on the right path.
Katie, we're glad you're here. Congratulations.
My name is Richard, and so last week I shared that I got a job. This week I made it through orientation and the first 3 shifts, and it's going really well. I enjoy it. And then I heard tonight from a friend that I haven't talked to since I was in inpatient, and he's doing well.
All
So
right,
it's
all
awesome.
sorts of good things. We'll celebrate it all, man. Congratulations. We got time for one more. Who wants it? Nobody? Going once, going twice. All right, you can double dip in Robin.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know why I forgot about this. I was excited about my first 1 year. But yesterday, I also just finished my halfway point for my grad school program.
All right, Robin. Congratulations. There we go. Jerome, you want to join me up here, dude?
Yes.
All right, buddy. You're all matchy tonight. The green hat, green plaid.
It's my
I
thing.
love it, dude. All right, you want to take the first one online?
Sure.
All right, you take the first one.
Jeanne, I had 9 years of sobriety from alcohol on November 26th.
Way to go. Congratulations. And I guess that's our only one online. Thanks for being up here with me, dude. Thanks for passing the mic tonight. All right, y'all. Well, we're in the 3rd week of Advent, 3rd week of this series called Get Lit for the Holidays. Check it out. So a brief rundown of what our next few minutes together will look like. I want to begin by sharing with you a phone call I received 2 weeks ago. And then I want to talk about the problem with hypocrites and how the real problem is just this fear of the darkness. And then I want to tell you about my new friend Danny and the words he spoke to me. And then end it with what all of this has to do with you being the light of the world. Are you with me? All right, let's go then. So 2 weeks ago, I received a phone call from a friend in the middle of the night. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. His phone call didn't wake me up, but I did get the voicemail, the 4-minute voicemail the following day. And in listening to this voicemail, I could tell that he was really struggling with his sobriety, struggling to get sober. And so I called him back later that day, and I said, dude, are you doing all right? And he said, yeah, why? I said, well, your voicemail last night. He said, wait a minute, I called you last night? And I said, well, actually, it wasn't last night. It was early this morning at about 3 o'clock this morning. I called you at 3 o'clock in the morning? He had no recollection of talking to me, which for people in this room, this is not surprising, right? This is how we are, active in addiction as alcoholics and addicts. I'm up at 3 in the morning, so you must be up at 3 in the morning. And by the way, I have something really important to say. So as I was talking to him, he launches into this conversation about his major frustration with hypocrites that he's experienced in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and hypocrites that he has encountered in the churches that he's been attending. And the whole time he's talking to me about these hypocrites, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but the truth is we all have a bit of hypocrisy in us, don't we? And did you know the word hypocrite, it comes from the Greek. It's a Greek word, and it simply means actor. It's when we play a role, but we're not being real. You see, hypocrisy, it happens all the time. And I think one of the reasons it happens, well, I'll get to that in a moment, but it happens all the time. And raise your hand if you have kids. Okay, so y'all will feel me on this, some of you in this room, some of you watching online. Your kids, be careful, because they will always call you out on this. Is it true? So a few weeks ago, we were in a group text thread. It was me and my wife Tammy, and my mom and her husband were coming into town, so we were on this text thread about what to do that evening. Selah, my 14-year-old daughter, was also on a text thread, and we were texting about what we were going to do, and Selah had been quiet, and then she pipes up on the text thread, and she sends one sentence. It was in the form of the question, and she simply wrote, "Why am I here?" Now, I knew exactly what she was referring to. She was saying, you all are the adults, you figure it out, and let me know what we're doing. I thought I would be funny, because I'm a very funny person. And so I wrote back on the text thread, "Baby, you are here because God created you. But you will have to do the inner work to figure out what your exact purpose is in this life." To which she responded, 14-year-old response, "Poppy, take a break from being a pastor." Touche, Selah. I thought I was being funny. Not so funny. Sometimes we get confused in our roles. And I have learned this valuable lesson over the years, especially in my recovery, that when it comes to my kids need me to be Poppy. My wife needs me to be husband. My friends need me to be friend, and so on. But the truth is we get confused sometimes in our roles. And in my experience, the other reason we turn towards hypocrisy, we become hypocrites, is because we're just too afraid to face the darkness in our lives. I mean, this was me in active addiction. I was playing the role of alcoholic. I was an alcoholic. And then I would also go into this role of hiding and hoping that no one would ever find out. I would show up to church on Sunday morning, sometimes to preach, hoping that no one would see who I really was. And y'all do know hypocrisy doesn't just go away once you get clean and sober and into recovery. See, what I found was, in starting my fourth step, I discovered more hypocrisy. The fourth step. For those of you that don't know what a fourth step is, it's where we take that fearless and searching moral inventory of our lives. It's where we look inward. We see our resentments. We see things we've done. We find out in that fourth column, we see our part in all of this, our role in all of this. And listen, y'all, even if you're not a 12-stepper, maybe you're not even a person in recovery, I would still tell you at some point in your life, you will have to face your own darkness if you want to go on and lead a meaningful life. But see, I was so afraid. Man, so afraid to start that fourth step because I was already filled with so much shame. I already hated myself. I was covered in shame. And now you're telling me I need to go inward and write this stuff down. And in my mind, all I could think of was, I'm doing that so that I can see how bad I really am. I don't want to see that right now. And y'all have to understand the religious framework of my childhood and young adult years. I mean, it just put this stuff deep into my bones, shame and fear. And as kids, from a young age, we were taught this theological idea called original sin. Has anyone ever heard of original sin? A few of you. Okay, original sin. This was a theology made popular by the 4th century theologian Saint Augustine, or some of you might say Saint Augustine. He gave us a lot of good things. You read through his work from the 4th century, a fascinating theological thinker. But he gave us this idea that we were born into sin, meaning from your very first breath, you are this sinful being. You are opposed to God, and God is opposed to you. You need to do something to get this God on your side. And then at the age of 18, I go off to Bible school and I learn about another theologian. He's a 16th century theologian. His name was Martin Luther. And Martin Luther gave us a lot of great ideas. But he also ran with this idea of original sin. And he said, oh, but don't worry, there's a little bit of hope in it. The hope is that once you turn your life over to God, once you turn your will over to God, well, you're still just a snow-covered dunghill. Yeah, full of hope, isn't it? I mean, what's he mean by this? What's it mean? Even in life with God, you're still just a pile of shit. And you always have been and always will be. There's nothing you can do about it. And y'all, today I reject that theology. I hope you reject it too. I mean, that was my whole life in addiction. That is how I saw myself. I was just a dunghill. And I tell you, I do not see myself that way anymore. And my brothers and sisters, it's important to know when God sees you, God does not see a pile of shit. When God sees you, God sees something far different no matter what you've done or how far from the path you have strayed. Original sin? No. Original good. I mean, do you remember the creation stories from the book of Genesis, the very first book of the Bible, very first book of the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible? It begins with a creation poem, and there's a cadence and a rhythm to it. Do you remember? There's trees, and there's a sun, and there's moon, and stars, and animals, and the God who's the engine of this poem, he just keeps creating, and this God stands back and says, this is good. In fact, the word for good in the Hebrew is this word, tov, T-O-V, say it with me, tov. And it literally translates as good, beautiful, working the way it was created to. And did you know in this opening poem in Genesis, that word tov is used 7 times. And then this God creates humans. And this God in the poem stands back and says, wait a minute, this isn't just good. This is supreme. You are supremely good. You are supremely tov. That's where the story starts. That's where it all starts. Now, can we stray from the good path? Absolutely, we do it all the time. Can we cling to hypocrisy? Absolutely, do it all the time. Every time I try to be someone I'm not, hypocrisy. Every time I let fear drive and it keeps me from going inward, all the time, all the time. But see, if I'm just a dunghill, how am I ever going to take inventory of my life? How am I ever going to go in here? And in my experience, we have to be willing to face our darkness if we are to live in the light. But it isn't to see how bad you are. It's actually the opposite. It's to go in there to see that you have a route home. It's to go in there to see that spiritual awakening is possible. Anyone know Richard Rohr? Yeah, you love Richard Rohr. I do too. He's one of my favorite spiritual teachers. Here's how he says it. Check it out. He says, I am convinced that some people are driven to addictions to quiet their constant inner critic. But it only gives them another thing to hate about themselves. What a vicious cycle. Moral scrutiny is not to discover how good or bad we are and regain some moral high ground, but to begin some honest shadowboxing, which is at the heart of all spiritual awakening. So shadowboxing, a searching and fearless moral inventory, is for the sake of truth, humility, and generosity of spirit, but not vengeance of the self. And do y'all get it? Your shadow self is not your bad self or your evil self. Your shadow self, that's just the parts of you that you do not want to see. And see, when I was struggling to start my fourth step, and when I sat in my sponsor's kitchen across from him at his kitchen table, and he's explaining this to me, and I say, you know what, I don't think I really need to write this stuff down. I don't need to do that. Maybe we could just talk about these things, as they come up, then we can talk about them. But I don't really want to write them down. And I explained to him, man, I just graduated from seminary. I think I'm good with the writing thing for a little while. And y'all, I'll never forget. He asked me one very simple question, and it was 5 words. By the way, it was the same question that he had to ask me again when I got to my 9th step because I was so scared. I was terrified of making amends to people that I'd harmed. He said, do you want to be free? Do you want to be free? That day I went up to the tattered covered bookstore and I bought my very first moleskin yellow notebook and I started to write. And it took me some time and I had to see that this was way more than just about being free from my addiction to alcohol. And that's a huge thing. What a miracle that is. But it was also just as much about me being free from hating myself. Me being free from trying to name the darkness light, hypocrisy. Me being free from a God who saw the core of me of just a dunghill. Me finding the freedom to discover the God who says, don't you get it? You are supremely tove. Now, can we still struggle with our roles? Yes. Can we still lean towards hypocrisy because we're so fearful of what others might think of us? Yes. And you do know that being free is good, but it does not make us perfect, right? Nope. So a few months ago, I received an email from a guy named Danny. And Danny, in his email, he was asking if we could meet. He said he'd been joining online at this service, our 7 o'clock service on Saturday nights. And I'll just be real honest with y'all. I was busy that week. A lot going on. And I also was asking myself in my head, well, what does this guy want from me? We've never met before. Why does he want to meet? And the truth is, if I could admit to you, I did not get back to his email. I totally spaced it. A couple of weeks go by, and a friend reached out to me and said, hey, I know this guy Danny, he really would like to meet with you, and I think you should meet with him. So I get in touch with Danny. We set up a time to meet, and it was just about 3 months ago. Tammy, my wife, and I were standing in the cafe, and Danny comes walking in. And almost immediately, Danny started sharing his story with me and Tammy. And in about 3 minutes, he had us both in tears. Because, see, sometimes what happens is, in the midst of your busyness, in the midst of your resistance to open yourself with another human being, God says, well, watch this. And he starts to share his story so authentically. I mean, it was the way he talked about his addiction and the way he talked about his recovery and the way he talked about forgiveness of not just friends, but people in his life who caused immense, unspeakable harm in his life. And it was the way he talked about his baggage with the Catholic Church and being raised Catholic, and the way he talked about this expanding relationship with God that he now has. And in that moment, I knew he was my people. And I asked Danny, I said, would you be willing to be our guest storyteller on our Christmas Eve services, which is, by the way, next Saturday. I hope you come. I can't wait for you to meet Danny. Now, Danny and I, we have this kind of budding friendship going on, and he calls me just a few weeks ago. And I don't fully remember the conversation. And no, I was not drunk. No, I was not blacked out. I just don't fully remember the conversation. But I must have told him somewhere in that conversation that it had been a trying week. Lots of moving pieces that week. And he says to me, he says, can we get together? Can you carve out 2 hours to where we can just sit down and just share stories? And I said, done. I took out my phone. I put it in my calendar, 2 hours with Danny. We met this Monday morning, from 8:30 to 10:30. And I'll be honest with y'all, when we sat down to meet, I had to say, Danny, remind me, I don't really remember, what exactly are we meeting for? And he said, well, yeah, you said it was a trying week, and we were just going to share stories, because sharing each other's stories, that's the way out. It's the way forward. But you have to understand, sometimes I get confused in my roles, and sometimes I buy into this lie of, what if my role's not good enough? And what if they don't like that role? And I'm asking myself these questions like, man, are we friends here? Am I pastor here? I mean, I felt like my daughter. Why am I here? And so about an hour into our conversation, an hour into our 2-hour conversation, I just got really honest with Danny. And I said, Danny, dude, you got to understand, sometimes I get confused in my role. And as a pastor, I have struggled with this. I get confused in my role. And I said, Danny, you'll have to forgive me for asking this question. It's harsh, but I don't know another way to ask it. What exactly do you want from me? And then I really had to pee, and he wanted coffee. So I went pee, and he headed to the cafe to get a cup of coffee. And we came back to my office, and y'all, the words he spoke to me next, it was like hearing God's voice for me. He came back in my office holding that cup of warm coffee, and he was smiling. He says, Ryan, I thought about your question while I was waiting in line to get my coffee. He said, man, the truth is, Ryan, I don't want anything from you. I just enjoy being with you. And he said, from the first time we met in the cafe, I knew you were a good guy. In fact, I could see God in you. And then he says to me, Ryan, you got to understand, when in addiction, I gave up so much time and energy to people in my life who weren't good for me. And now in my recovery, I have learned to surround myself with good people, and you're one of them. And y'all, as I heard these words in that moment, it was like I was hearing God say to me, Ryan, don't you get it yet, man? You are almost 12 years sober, almost 12 years into your recovery, and I'm still going to remind you, if you need to hear this, Ryan, don't you get it? You are supremely tov. And Ryan, I know your shadow self will kick in, and it'll creep up, and you'll lean towards hypocrisy. You'll be tempted to put on the mask and tempted to play a role of someone you're not. And Ryan, while we're at it, don't you know, I don't want anything from you. I just enjoy being with you. And my brothers and sisters, is it possible that God doesn't want anything from you? Is it possible that God simply loves God's creation? And isn't it interesting? Jesus gathered with a crowd of people on a hilltop. Some of them knew him, some of them didn't really know him, and they saw something good in him, but they wanted to see more. They were like, is this the real deal? And Jesus says to this crowd of people, you are the light of the world. In fact, here's how Jesus said it, Matthew's Gospel, chapter 5. Just 3 verses. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify God in heaven. And before I say more about this passage, we should just all admit, yes, we've seen it done many times, some religious folks will use this passage to be absolutely belligerent with their beliefs. They'll say things like, well, we're the lit ones. We're the lit ones, and we need to convince you and convert you to see the world the way we see it. And you are the bad ones. That's where your story started. You're the bad ones, and you're full of darkness, but we are full of light. And you need to get with our program today, because if you don't, you're going to die and burn in hell forever. And then they'll call it good news. And y'all, yeah, no, thank you, right? Let's just keep this passage very simple. Let me ask you a series of questions. What does light do? Well, it helps us see in the darkness, doesn't it? Light helps us see in the darkness. In fact, we were reading this passage together as a family last Sunday night, because on these Sunday nights during Advent, We gather in our living room, and the kids come in, and we light the Advent candles, and we'll read a passage and just talk about it. And sometimes it goes really smoothly. Other times it goes really awry. We read this passage, and I told all the kids after I read it, I said, now I want you all to prepare, because tomorrow afternoon, we're going to go on just a short walk around the block. And I said, whatever you do, don't forget your flashlight. And little 5-year-old Bricks, my little boy, he just looked at me like I was absolutely crazy, rightfully so. And he says to me, Poppy, why do we need our flashlights if it's going to be light outside? Which is the right question to ask, right? I mean, he was picking up on something very true, that light in itself is not very profound, is it? It's always what light does. And what does light do? It illuminates the world around you so you can see what's already there. It's not like things are popping out of the dark. You just couldn't see them without the light. And y'all, I want to read this passage one more time in a different version. I love this version. It's called The Message. It's like a paraphrase, a different version of the Bible. And if you haven't read it, highly recommend it. I can't believe this is the first time I ever read this passage in this version this week. And check it out. Here's another way to put it. Same passage, by the way, Matthew chapter 5. You're here to be light, bringing out the God colors in the world. God is not a secret to be kept. We're going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a light stand. Now that I've put you there on a hilltop, on a light stand, shine. Keep open house. Be generous with your lives. By opening up to others, you'll prompt people to open up with God. How beautiful is that? By opening up with others, you are going to prompt people to open up with God. Why are you here? It is not to say, look at me. I mean, look at how good I am. Oh, even sober, recovered me. I mean, look at me. No, that is an absolutely boring story. That's an old story. You are the light of the world. Your message is different. Your message is, yeah, come on out. Come on out. I know it's a little dark, but come on out. Do you see how beautiful it is? I mean, do you see, because the light's not about you, do you see everything that God is doing? You see, you get to be a tour guide. You are helping people see everything they've been missing along the way because they've been trying to do it on their own. I mean, why are you here? You're here to be light, bringing out the God colors of the world. I mean, your job is to help people see what's already there. Your job, our job here, is to help people see how tove they really are, to help people see how tove the world really is. You, my brothers and sisters, are not piles of dunghill, even covered in white snow. You, my brothers and sisters, are the light of the world. In the words of the 21st century, Saint Rihanna, shine bright like a diamond. That's what we get to do, shine bright like a diamond. So here's what we're going to do. During this song, which song do you think I'm going to play? Yeah, Diamonds by Rihanna. I don't think we've ever played Rihanna here. During this song, this time is yours. Just take a moment and reflect. You can stand up, you can dance, get your jiggy on, whatever you want to do. We have these little tea light candles up here with lighters. If you want to come up and light a candle to give yourself the very simple reminder that God doesn't need anything from you, but you are the light of the world. You get to be light for other people. If you want to give yourself the reminder that you are tove, you are the light of the world, well, I would invite you to come up and light a candle. You certainly don't have to. You can stay seated and reflect. This time is yours. Here's Diamonds by
the Associate Executive Director here. And sometimes I also get confused of what my role is. And sometimes, I don't know if you guys know this, but I most of the time have no idea what Ryan's going to say. So when I hear his message, I'm just one of you guys sitting in the seats, and it hits me so hard to my core. And I say, well, why am I here? I have to get up, and I'm feeling my feelings, and then I have to come and be vulnerable, literally standing in the spotlight, and I'm terrified. But then I remember that I get to be that spotlight for somebody else, and the best part of my job is I get to hear from you guys. The second part of our service on Saturdays is always dedicated to a community member who's brave enough to come up and share their story with us. It's always relevant to the topic at hand, and it's always something that is such a privilege that I think I have the world's greatest job, and it's because I get to remember that none of us are alone. All of us are here together, right? And it's so amazing. And our next guest storyteller, I feel like sometimes we have these big, massive stories, and we think that we have to be like working in recovery or, doing it every single day or helping all these people. And sometimes it's those true small acts that really add up. So I'm really privileged to let you guys meet my up-and-coming budding friendship. Please help me welcome Shanley up to the living room. And yes, we did shoes to match tonight. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome back, Shanley. Thanks for being here. As I was saying, one of my most favorite parts about my job is just that one-on-one talking to people. And I remember when I had asked you, like, hey, would you share your story with us tonight? And you hit me right off the bat with two things that just blow my mind. One, sustained recovery and a non-12-step fellowship. But for those of you who don't know what March 15th, 2020 is, it's the day the world shut down. And so talking about being a hypocrite, that is a day that you had to get truly honest with yourself, and you couldn't hide anymore. Can you take us back to March 15th, 2020?
Yeah, I'll take you a little bit further back. I attempted, when I was in my 20s, to get sober, and then in end of 2019 entered a IOP program, which was great until it wasn't, and ended up relapsing, but still going to group and therapy and all those things. So the hypocrite that I was, and then again, so that was January, February, and then March hit, and I was sent home from the office where I primarily did most of my drinking. So I couldn't hide anymore. My husband was fed up, and we didn't keep booze in the house anymore because of my issues and things like that. So, it was talk about having to get real with myself and my problem and doing whatever I could to try and stay sober.
And what did that look like? Because clearly you had no community because the world was shut down. You had to go to cold turkey. You had nothing in the house, and you had to get real honest with those emotions real fast. I know we talked about before, you were saying that for vulnerability to you prior to getting sober was that random night that you would drunkenly overshare, tell a story, and someone would probably end up crying, either you or them. So what did that look like, having to get vulnerable, ultimately almost by yourself, in that you had to go internal, right?
Yeah, it was all internal. I couldn't be real with anybody else until I was real with myself. So admitting to my husband, to my parents, to my friends that I had a problem wasn't going to happen until I admitted it to myself, and that didn't happen until I had to sit in my house during COVID with no option.
Shadow boxing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what did it look like? When did you finally realize that like I can't do this ultimately by myself? I need community. I need people around me. Can you walk us through what that looked like?
Yeah, not being a 12-stepper, that sense of community was never part of my original journey. I had therapy and group and things like that, but it was almost forced. So not having an outlet, not knowing what to do, trying to white knuckle it, reading every quitlet that I could find. I finally found the Phoenix. And they were kind of the first real people that I had a connection with that got meetings online and their meditation and their workouts and things like that. And so that was really what my kind of next step was. But again, it wasn't community, it was all online. So you could still hide behind your video not on, things like that. So there was still a little bit of that closeness from my side.
And how did that change? Like what happened? Was it when the world opened back up, or how did you start realizing that I can't just do this on my own?
I wasn't necessarily doing it on my own. I did very well, with the support of my husband and my family and, the people. My job was fantastic. But it wasn't until I attended my first in-person Phoenix event, which was here, beginning of the year. It was one of their open mic nights. And some things just kind of the stars aligned, and there's something special in this place, and walking in, and it's not even a word, it's just a feeling. And I just knew that this was the probably 10% of my sobriety that I was missing. I could do it 90% by my own, but I needed this.
Well, and I know one of the things that I love about our community is we are open Monday through Friday from 9 to 9. So it's not just Saturday service, it's not just the meetings we have, it's the community that we're able to create. And a lot of that is in the cafe. Our cafe is just an amazing space where people from all walks of life can walk in. Part of the stars aligning, and also my first entry point into coming through free was through the cafe. Do you mind telling us kind of the stars aligning moment and what that looked like when you first came in?
Yeah, so I was at end of 2020, beginning of 2021, something like that. I was at a shop in Angels Connect, I believe is this shop. It's in downtown Littleton, and they do some really great stuff, outreach programs and things like that. But one of the great things is when you purchase something, they give a percentage of your purchase back to a charity of your choice. And so because I was in recovery and I thought, still hiding, haven't entered community yet, I think, I'll just throw some money at it and everything will be fine. I'll be sober. Everybody else will be sober. So I donated to, women in sobriety, and the lady behind the checkout said, we also sell coffee that does the same thing. So I picked up my first bag of Wagon coffee, and that same weekend, my aunt from Chicago and her husband and their family were out here, and we all went up to the mountains as a family and had this fantastic coffee and fantastic conversation and all of that. And I thought that was just kind of the end of it. Like, I did my job, and it was beautiful, and that was great. And then when I walked in for the Phoenix event, and this was Wagon Coffee, and this was the Phoenix, and this was free, it was just perfect.
And you just never know those like little events. And so speaking of that, because again, Tammy's reach into the community, you never know who is going to be affected by the acts that we do. And I know we shared 2 specific stories that I would love for you to share. One about how do you give back currently in your job in recovery, and then I also want you to talk about your neighbor.
Okay. So I work for the corporate office of Teriyaki Madness. I'm their VP of Ops, and we do a couple things. I oversee the store in Littleton, so we make it a point to we just connected with Jeff Cook, who's also a community member here, and he does job placement for people that are working through their recovery. We've reached out to a couple sober living houses to employ those people. And then also through the corporate side of it, we host a conference every year in different locations across the U.S. that, regardless of where they are, we ask our franchisees to come out for 3 or 4 days, leave their families. A lot of them are in recovery. I don't know if you guys have ever worked in the restaurant industry, but it's not the most sober friendly. But some of them are, actively in recovery, and I just make sure that they have a place, whether it's a meeting or a ride to a meeting or a mocktail. We always do some sort of alcohol-free event, not necessarily that they're singled out, but so that they have a place to be comfortable in a very uncomfortable situation.
Well, and that's what I love too. It doesn't matter what industry that you work in. Like, you can be that change and you can be that person out there in the world. And then speaking of that change, do you mind if we talk about your neighbor?
I do not. So Alyssa is also a member of this community. She is 20 years younger than I am. She grew up in the house next to the house that I grew up in. And along with her, I have a brother and sister who are significantly younger than I am. So as the cool sister, I was always allowing them to partake in, the same activities that I did. So I got her into her addiction. I'm not going to take all the credit, but I, was an active part, and she celebrated her 1 year of sobriety before she even turned 21. Yeah, so so she's definitely an inspiration, and I have made it my life's mission to make sure that I am here every single day for her through her sobriety, no matter what it is, a coffee, a phone call, I'm here for her.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And again, it goes to show that it doesn't have to be these massive, grand actions that we take. In closing, to the person who's still out there who might be struggling, do they feel like they're a piece of shit, or that like my contribution isn't enough, like my little, like this is all I can do, or what would you say to the person out there tonight who's perhaps struggling, feeling that their contribution isn't enough, or they're not qualified enough to be being the change?
I think there's a couple things. I think, put yourself in those shoes and what was important to you in your early sobriety, your late sobriety, before you entered sobriety. And it could be the smallest thing. How you doing with an actual, I want to know how you're doing. And just that little bit of investment in somebody goes a long way.
And it doesn't even have to be recovery, right? I feel like anyone can do that. Just that genuine, when we ask you like, oh, how are you doing? None of us are sitting there waiting to hear the answer, right? So it's like being present enough to, I do want to hear your reply to that answer. And just being that change that to be the light for someone is sometimes just sitting there with them, right? So thank you so much, Shanley. Are you going to stick around if anyone wants to connect with you?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Can you guys please give Shanley a round of applause?
Thank you, Shanley and Carrie. Shanley, I'm so glad you're part of this community. and that your role shifted. You found your true, authentic role. Not to pull people into addiction, but to actually be the hand that helps pull them into recovery. That's a beautiful thing. Keep living into that role. It's a beautiful thing. All right, y'all. Yeah. Thank you, Shanley. All right. So if you're new with us, well, I'll let you know that the way we close things down here at Free on a Saturday night. By the way, the cafe is open till 9 o'clock. It is clearly a place of connection. So if you need to go get a muffin and a latte and connect with someone, that's for you. But the way we close things down here in this room is with what we call heartaches. Very similar to celebrations, but different. Because maybe you're carrying a burden. It's one you've been trying to carry this week on your own, or maybe for some time on your own. And you find out that you really suck at carrying it on your own, and you don't have to. It's why we have community. It's why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. So we take 3 minutes for this. If you need some prayer, some encouragement, some lifting up, well, I encourage you to lift up your hand. And Carrie will have a mic, and the Carries will have mics this evening. So just lift up your hand and put words to that burden that you are carrying. And hey, if you guys, again, if you're joining us online from Facebook or YouTube, drop the comments in there, and we'll join with you there. Let's take 3 minutes.
I'm Joe. This Thursday, I will be having full knee replacement surgery, and narcotics for pain have never done me very good, so I'm asking for prayers if you do that. If not, send good energy my way.
Yeah, thanks for that, Joe, and thanks for not just the prayers for the knee surgery, of course, but for recovery, because we know the danger of opiates and where they can take us. So prayers for you, buddy. I'm glad you're here.
I'm Mac. My 15-year-old cousin Nevaeh ran away from home about 2 weeks ago. I'm the only one in the family she's still talking to. She's drinking, smoking weed, and taking Xanax. So just some prayers that she comes home safe.
All right, man. Lifting her up tonight. Prayers for you too, buddy.
Joe and I have a couple of family members that are struggling in their addiction, and just ask for prayers for them.
All right. Lifting up those who are still suffering, those still struggling.
Hi, I want to send a prayer out to my brother Tony, who went out and relapsed 24 hours ago, and he's missing in action right now. He was a big part of our community, 2 years sober, and just relapsed last night, so I'd like to send a prayer out for him.
All right. Lifting up Tony tonight.
I'm Jerome. I want to send a prayer out to my Uncle Kenny. Lost my Aunt Tanya to long-term COPD illness. They unplugged her on Monday, and she passed away yesterday. But she's in a better place now, so send some love and prayer to my extended family.
Love and prayer to the family. Thanks, Jerome. Simon Jr.
I'm Zach. I just want to send out a prayer to my girlfriend who's struggling with her recovery right now. And I hope she can, see the light that she is and find herself again.
Lifting her up tonight, man. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, my name is Sai. With the season, holidays, winter, as a peer coach, I see a lot of people that are in very dark places. This is a rough time of year for a lot of people, especially those in addiction. And with our message tonight, it was just really made me think a lot about, I try and bring the light to a lot of people, but I can't always be that. So my prayer is that those people that are in their darkest moments right now, that they find the light in somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we could start passing the light and lighting the light of others so it spreads. Yes. Yeah, thanks for that, side. Lifting them up. Monica, we got one more.
My name is Monica. I just want prayers for my dad. He's been struggling health-wise, and it's been taking a toll on his mental. So just trying to lift him up.
All right. Prayers for him tonight. Thank you for mentioning him. All right. Carrie, you want to join me up here?
Sure, absolutely.
All right. We'll take on the heartaches of our online people. You want to take the first one? Sure. Did you keep your mic on? I think you turned it off. There you go. Now it's back on. All right.
So this is Stephen Shellup. Please pray for Ashley P. Recently lost his mother, who he described as his best friend.
All right, Stephen. Prayers for Ashley. Lifting them up. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. Glad you're here. Oh, and we have one more. Frank says, trying hard to get sober and stay sober. Thanks for reminding me I am a light in God's eyes. Please pray for me, my friends, and I am struggling. Thanks and much love. Frank, glad you're here tonight, lifting you up. You've got a whole community of people behind you.
Keep going, right?
And you are, man, the light of the world. Thank you, Carrie, for being up here.
Thanks.
All right, y'all, if you have been impacted by the mission of breaking the silence of addiction, if this is your home, your people, your tribe, well, I love to tell you, we rely upon your generous giving here. And really, I mean it when I say it. Thank you for being a part of it. I know many of you have made this a spiritual practice in your life. You've made it a sacrificial practice in your life, and it makes a big difference here. We are funded by you, the people. When people ask, well, how do you just keep this whole thing going? Well, it takes a lot of people to be involved in giving, and we're really grateful for it. It makes a difference here. If you want to donate to Free tonight, well, there's a few different ways to do it. You can download the Free Recovery Community app. It is free to download, and I'm just going to have to tell you about it because our projector just poof and went out. It's free to download. There's a giving button on that app, and you can give once, or you can become what's called a recurring donor. You can set it up to give on a weekly basis, a monthly basis. However you do it, know that we're grateful for it. You can also go straight to the website, freerecoverycommunity.com, and you can do the same thing there. Hit the giving button and give how you choose. Or you can find the kiosk, one beside Mac here at these doors and one just outside these doors that cleverly say giving for you cash and check type people. And as always, there is the dip jar that hangs out on a black table just outside these doors. If you haven't checked out the dip jar yet, you might dig it. It's a thing, it's about this size, a shoebox size, and you take a credit card, you dip it in, you dip it out, then it lights up so that you get to feel good about your giving. It's set at $20. You can't give more than $20 or less than $20. Actually, if you want to give more, you can double dip or dip another credit card. However you want to do it, we're grateful for it. It makes a difference. All right, y'all, thank you. Really, thank you for being a part of that. It's a huge blessing. As we close in prayer, shall we close in prayer? Yes. I'm waiting for someone to shout out, no! That would be really awkward. Shanley and Chad and Bruce, come on up here and help me close things out with a prayer. Yeah, because the thing about this recovery stuff is we do it together as a community. We do it together as a family. Shanley and her dad, Bruce, man, Bruce is here every week, every Saturday night, and I got to do Bible Curious group with Bruce. We just spent 5 weeks looking at different passages, and Chad is Shanley's husband. And I know it takes, that was probably a wise move, Dad. Good for you, man. Put them together. But I know, just speaking from experience, it takes staying together in this and finding a way through it, and y'all did that, and that's good news. All right, so what I do is I just encourage people to open up their hands. If you're at home, just open up the hands. There's no magic power in it. It's just a sign of openness. Maybe tonight you're open to a new way. Open to see how tove you really are. Open to see that you are indeed the light of the world. So we have a role. And we'll go out with a Franciscan blessing. And it's to pay attention to the word discomfort. May we be blessed with discomfort. It's on your screen. We'll pray it together. It goes like this. May God bless you with discomfort at easy answers. Have truths and superficial relationships so that you may live deep within your heart Amen. See you at the party Friday and Christmas Eve on Saturday.